Hi, I'm Dr. Lori Carnsew at Verity Primary Medicine and Lifestyle. Welcome back to our next series of plant-based whole food cooking minis. Today we're going to make a cheese sauce because a lot of people have been told to cut down or even eliminate dairy, and a large part of dairy that we consume is cheese. So we're going to make a cheese sauce, and this is actually a recipe we found on the internet. There are a ton of things for plant-based cheese and cheese sauces out there. This is one of our favorites, and we really couldn't improve on it more. So the recipe is by Jill McKeever, and her site is Simple Daily Recipes. So why have people been asked to cut down on dairy? Well, I was always under the belief growing up and even throughout medical school that we needed dairy and it was a necessary part of our diet because of calcium. And when you look at the large amount of data out there and the large studies that show dairy actually can be harmful to our health. And when you look at what's happened in at least the United States over the last 30 years is we have really increased our amount of dairy. And as far as cheese, we eat 3 times the amount of cheese that we did 30 years ago. Cheese is also a big component of fats in our diet because there is a lot of fats in cheese. Cheese is actually one of the leading causes of sodium and salt in our diet. So you can see there is salt in this cheese today, but when you taste this compared to a regular cheese sauce that you're used to, it's going to taste like there's not a lot of salt. And so there are lots of other reasons to eliminate dairy as well. So high fats is one of them, weight loss is one, but also it's a source of saturated fats in our diet, and the American Heart Association has recommended cutting down on dairy products because of that. But also there are many other issues that dairy promotes: skin problems, psoriasis, eczema, acne. People find that when they completely eliminate dairy from their diet, which is difficult to do, but when they do, a lot of these problems get better or even go away completely. Stomach issues, reflux. Tons of people are taking reflux. Zantac has just been pulled off the market, and people are saying, well, what do we do? What are we gonna do? Change your diet. Try getting rid of dairy. It's difficult because cheese is in everything, and I dare you to go out to a restaurant and try and find something that doesn't have cheese or a cream sauce or some type of dairy in it. It is just inundated in everything that we're used to. So finding these small ways and things that we can use as substitutes for the type of things that we are used to eating and we like, such as macaroni and cheese or burritos with cheese or cheese topping on nachos. This is a great alternative, and it's made with all whole foods. Some of the other things that dairy bothers with the stomach and digestive system is constipation, diarrhea. One of the key things I see every day: irritable bowel problems, constipation, belly aches in kids. A lot of these are dairy related, and a lot of them are constipation related. And instead of putting kids or adults on laxatives and a lot of medications, one of the first things to try is get milk out of their diet, switch to a plant-based milk, get the cheese out of their diet, whipped cream, ice cream, cream cheese, sour cream. These are all sources of dairy, and there are a lot of alternatives now. So let's go ahead and put this together. Once you get the ingredients together, it's actually very simple, and you can see that we're going to use roasted red peppers. You can buy these in a jar. Try to find the kind without oil. We really don't need the extra 100% fat that comes with the oil. These were packed in water. If you make your own, that's even better. You can roast your own, but you're gonna wanna add some water with them to this recipe. So we're just gonna, you do need a high-speed blender, but we're just gonna put everything in the blender all together. There's no particular order you need to do. Cornstarch, and we'll give you the amount of ingredients at the end. Nutritional yeast has a little bit of a cheesy flavor and lots of B vitamins. We're going to use lemon juice, and this is from a fresh lemon. Onion powder. Salt, we used Himalayan sea salt for this version. Liquid smoke, don't need a lot, but that gives it a nice flavor. And then these are just rolled oats, raw oats. This recipe is actually gonna cook when you have a high-speed blender right in the blender, and believe it or not, this is gonna turn into a nice cheese sauce. So more about dairy. One of the other reasons that people are told to get rid of dairy is it has a lot of cancer-causing potential. And so all dairy contains estrogen, and a lot of people don't realize this. People come in all the time and because they're fatigued or for various reasons they feel that their hormones are out of balance. Well, there is estrogen in all dairy, and by nature, the cows that provide the dairy milk are pregnant, and all pregnant mammals secrete estrogen because that's what makes breast milk. So cow's milk contains estrogen. Now, many farm and manufacturing places give cows extra hormones. So even if you're getting milk from local sources or from sources with no hormones added, they do still contain estrogen, and it is in small amounts. But the fact is we've tripled our amount of cheese intake, we've tripled our amount of dairy intake, and so children at a very young age are starting to eat dairy products that contain this estrogen. And what we found is over the past 30 or 40 years, we have earlier puberty, and it's likely because of the estrogen. The other thing is, as people are overweight and gain more fat cells, those fat cells actually promote estrogen as well. So 2 reasons that dairy increases your estrogen: because there's estrogen in it, and because it promotes obesity, and there's more estrogen made from that. So in any event, when people have more estrogen, and even if it's only a very small level, they do tend to be at higher risk for breast cancers and for prostate cancers. And there's some very good studies, and I'm not going to go into all the scientific details today, but there are some studies that show increased risk of this with the increased dairy intake. And people who have a higher intake of dairy have a higher increase of risk of cancer, as well as diseases like osteoporosis and bone fragility, which is actually the opposite of what I've always believed, what I used to tell my patients. But science doesn't lie. When you look at the data and you put it all together, the data's there that showed the lower intakes of dairy, lower instances of osteoporosis. So for those of you that want to keep strong bones and want to keep your estrogen levels at a minimal, I suggest eliminating the dairy and getting your calcium from other sources such as greens or soy or beans. So let's go ahead and make this. I'm going to go ahead and put this on a high-speed blender. You do have to have a high-speed blender for this. Oh, I almost forgot to add the water. So we have warmed this water ahead of time. It takes a little bit less. This is going to take about 5 minutes. So you just put it all together. You want to use a blender. This is a Vitamix. Some people have a Ninja, but anything that's high speed, I always do this. It is going to actually steam, so I loosen the top a little bit to let the steam out. And it is going to cook in here. It will take about 5 minutes, and you'll know it's ready because the blender is going to change sounds, and you'll see that it's not moving around as much anymore as it thickens up. So let's see what happens. So I think here we are. It's still pretty liquidy, but as you can see, we're probably going to get some steam. You want to be careful when you open the top. And it is actually cooked right in the blender. And you can see it bubbling in here, and it's very creamy. It will thicken a little bit, but not a lot. And the great thing is this will keep in the refrigerator in this semi-liquid form. So you can freeze it, you can refrigerate it, you can use it now. As you can see, it makes a lot. So I like to have this on pasta with macaroni and cheese. You can use it on top of chilies, you can use it in burritos, you can use it on top of French fries, and so as you can see, we have a nice gooey cheese sauce. So right now we're putting it over potatoes that we just cut and put in the air fryer for about 10 minutes on 400 degrees, and they're nice and crispy even without oil.